Hey, it's Kim. Welcome back to today's video. Today's video is going to be all about routines. It's not my first routine video. It will probably not be my last because I kind of like these types of videos. But today's video is much needed because of the place where I'm finding myself in life right now. So the job that I've been doing for the past 16 years of my life, I am no longer doing. So that requires me to set up new routines and kind of shift some things during my day. And I'm really not talking about morning routine, night routine, those types of routines. I'm really talking about my daily schedule and making sure I put things in places so that I am the most productive as possible, or the most productive as I want to be, depending on the day. I think I'll explain that further as we get further into the video. Now, before I sat down, I really didn't think through a whole lot about what I'm going to do. So this is really going to be just me documenting this journey, and we're going to do it all together. So I do know one thing about me is that for the purposes of setting up a structure for my daily schedule, I do like to time block. And if I'm time blocking, I like to do that on a computer, which is why I have mine set up right here. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to do all of this together. But I just kind of wanted to explain where I am at the moment and why I'm needing more structure. Also, I should note that we are just about getting back into the school swing, or the swing of school. And I do find that from June to September, I am ready to take a break from routines. I don't want to have a schedule. I don't want to have anything planned. And also, it's just a little bit harder to do that during those months when everybody's home from school and we have vacations and all of that stuff. So by the time June rolls around, I am ready to not have a routine. But when September creeps in, I am desperately longing for some kind of structure in my day and some kind of like self-discipline that I need to tap into and tune into, and that is where we are today. So we're going to work through all of that. There are some tools that I've been thinking about that will probably help me do that. And because I don't really know where the season of my life is going, I don't really know exactly what to expect. I imagine that this is going to take a few tweaks and twists and turns until I kind of get it right. And I'm okay with that. I'm along for the ride. But as long as I have some kind of structure to help me feel like things are getting done, or to help me feel like I'm doing well in adulting, I think that would go a long way to helping me maintain my sanity. So that's where you come in, and we're going to do all of this together. I'm going to flip the camera around and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to do a picture-in-picture kind of deal because it took me 30 minutes to figure out camera direction and lighting and all of that, and I don't feel like bothering. So we're gonna see how this works. I'm gonna do like a screen record type thing, picture-in-picture combo, so that you can work alongside with me as we go through this. So first things first, when I'm typically setting up for for time blocking, I like to use a digital calendar, as I've explained. And so the two options that I have available to me are Google Calendar and iCalendar. Is that what it's called? The one on Apple. And I don't like either of them a whole lot. So I do feel kind of like I am settling for this one at the moment. And here's a quick glimpse at what I've set up for this week. There really is no rhyme or reason. It's just what it is. Like, we are currently here. I am currently filming, clearly. So I'm on target in that regard, but that's pretty much it. But anyway, for this video, what I'm going to do is pick a random week in September, and we'll just start from there. My weeks, for the purposes of productivity, begin on a Monday, and it goes from Monday to Sunday. So we'll start with this Monday here. And there are a few caveats that I was kind of trying to explain, or, well, earlier I was mentioning that I've thought through these things in relation to how I would like to set up my weekly or daily schedules and my time blocking and all of that. So in the general sense, time blocking doesn't exactly work for me. I know you might be like, well, then why are we here? Okay, we're here because it does work in the sense if I make themed kind of days. So if I define what a Tuesday is going to be, Tuesday is only going to be filled with X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And if it doesn't get done on Tuesday the 12th in our example here, then it gets pushed to Tuesday the 19th. So it works in that regard if I kind of block them into themed days. Also, I don't like being so stringent or so tied to a schedule for time blocking. So if on a Sunday evening I sit down and I plot out how I think I want my Monday through the following Sunday to go, I am well aware that Monday through Friday things might change. So all of that busy work that I had planned and that deep work that I planned for Wednesday the 13th, it could be possible that something happens on the 12th and I'm just not into it for Wednesday the 13th. I need to start my day a little bit slower. I need to do something that doesn't require a whole lot of brain power. So I am the type of individual who likes to plan my days and my time based on my mood for the most part. And my mood changes. Maybe I want to, switch days. But also that has helped me realize what days are best for certain types of work for me. So then it goes back to having themed days more specifically. Also, I've come to understand that I do tend to have natural breaks throughout my day. So there's like a pre 8 a.m. time slot where a lot of things are still happening. Let's say I wake up at about 6, or sometimes I might wake up at about 5. It depends on what season I am in my life. And there's a lot getting done before 8 o'clock, but it's things that I don't typically consider work. So they might be things that I prefer to do for myself. Maybe working out, maybe Bible study, spending time with my kids, who knows? But it's things that I typically tend to do for myself, and they don't relate to work or productivity in that sense. However, they still might go onto the schedule. And then there's a block of time between like 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. where like 3 p.m. kids are home from school and I can't quite lock myself in my room, to do work. So I have to be a little more flexible with what does happen during those times. And then let's say at 5 p.m. I may be cooking dinner. So then like 5 to 7 p.m. I'll set up. So I'm going to cook dinner and maybe I'm going to tidy up the kitchen or the living room or something of that nature. So it's more home focused in that time period. And then like 7 to whatever my bedtime might be is my time. So that might be time that I spend journaling or just watching reality television. It's going to be my time. So those are kinds of like the natural breaks in the day that I like to make sure I'm accounting for. I like to make sure that I'm allowing that time, or make sure I'm taking breaks during that time. There's also things that I like to include that I call buffers. So between scheduled work blocks throughout the day, I like to add in some buffer time so that I'm not going from one strenuous task to another strenuous task right away. I know without a doubt I will be completely burned out if I allow that to happen, so I try not to. I schedule in some kind of buffer time. So what I do know is that if I were to theme all of these days, and let's start that way. So I'll theme all of the days, and my Mondays are typically more of my like deep work kind of days. So that's what I choose to include on a Monday. My Tuesdays are low energy days, and I know this because I have the terrible habit of incorporating way too many things on my Mondays, and then by the time Tuesday rolls around, I wake up and I feel like I've been hit by a Mack truck and I am just like ready for Saturday to get here already. So because I know that, I do really try not to do too much on a Monday, and I really try to focus in on the things that are most important for me to do, so that I won't be so drained by the time Tuesday rolls around. But in the same token, I am allowing myself to do less strenuous things on a Tuesday. For instance, Tuesdays, I'm not going to work out. So even though I've done, like on Monday, I've done a lot of deep work. I've done things that required a lot of brain power. I have been making a lot of phone calls, having some meetings, making things happen. On Tuesday, even though I'm not doing meetings and I'm not doing deep work and I'm not doing all that stuff, even the mere act of just removing a physical workout somehow just makes me feel better about the day in general. So Tuesdays are going to be my low energy type of days. Wednesdays, I know that I like to do some type of autopilot kind of work. So these would be things that how do I get there? Oh, so things that don't require a lot of brain power. Things that I can kind of just put on autopilot, or things that I'm just used to knocking out really easy back to back to back. So this could be a day that I sit down and I choose to clear out my inbox. So then on an autopilot type of day, I'm just taking about an hour to get to inbox 0. And it's easy enough for me to just respond to emails and kind of categorize emails, like which ones I'll need to reference back to, which ones I can answer really quickly. So that to me is something that feels easy. It doesn't feel too strenuous. So that is something I would schedule for a Wednesday. And also on Wednesday, I like to do sort of like a midweek check-in. I like to see how much I've accomplished so far, regarding whatever my plan might have been for the week. I want to see how much I accomplished so far. I want to see what else I need to get done, what can be pushed to next week. And yeah, just like a midweek check-in to see where we are, what's going on, what I want to have happen. So Thursdays, I do consider more of my creative kind of days. So if I need to create, or maybe if I'm going to be filming some YouTube videos, I'll save that for a Thursday, maybe. Again, that's one of those things that I could also do on a Monday when I have higher energy, like if I need to actually talk to a camera. But I think Thursdays I should be refreshed enough to be able to do that. So I consider that my creative kind of day. If I need to design something that is related to like my other businesses or whatever, I'll reserve that for a Thursday. And then Friday, I like to consider that my catch-all day. So when I did my midweek review on Wednesday, there might have been some things that I was like, oh, there were some phone calls I didn't make on Monday or Tuesday. So I'm gonna switch that to Friday. But overall, my plan for Fridays are not a lot of work. So I'm not doing a whole lot of work, deep work type of stuff. Just some smaller tasks that need to be cleared up. Some things that kind of slip through the cracks a little bit that I just want to make sure don't roll over into the next week. So I consider that a catch-all kind of day. So this is how I would theme all of the days for my week. This is what I'm starting with for now. And I think based on what I know about myself, what I know about my productivity habits or energy levels, I believe this would likely work extremely well for me. Okay, so with this all laid out, I'd like to also get into plotting out an ideal week for me. Again, this ideal week is kind of like a tester. So I do recognize and understand that probably for the first 2, maybe even 3 weeks, maybe things won't go exactly as I have planned on the schedule, and I have to be okay with that. That is a part of time blocking that used to stress me out. Like if I had to move something, it annoyed me greatly, but I don't get so annoyed anymore, especially since I do it digitally. I can just drag a little box over to a different area in the calendar and it's not that serious. So that's why I like to do it digitally, and I've come to terms with understanding that this format works best for me because I can change things and rearrange them, and also come to terms with the fact that even though I've set up this ideal week, maybe this doesn't work for me by the time October gets here and there's a different kind of ideal week. That's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. So first things first, there are some non-negotiables that I like to make sure are included in the weekly, and those would be workouts. Those would also be any meetings that I have confirmed and scheduled, and also household duties. I do like to put on the calendar not specific duties, but kind of ballpark when I'm probably going to have some time to do those household type of items. So those are the things that I would go in and I would schedule first. All right, so we got to work out, and I scheduled a 2-hour block. I don't work out for 2 hours. I'm not about that life. But I just put it in there by default so that it gives me enough buffer time to shower and to do whatever else I might need to do throughout the week. And then another thing that I do know is cooking dinner. So this is just the cooking of the dinner, not the eating of the dinner. This is going to happen at Friday. Wow, what am I talking about? At 5 o'clock on a specified day. And this is generally what I like to have scheduled or planned out, just Monday through Friday. Though things do also happen on Saturday and Sunday, obviously. I don't stick to a schedule on those days. I do whatever the heck I want with a lot of relaxation involved. So that is the way I like to design my days and design my weeks. Another thing that I know that I like to do is allow time for me to run errands during the week. It's normally, and this probably sounds weird to people, but it's normally just one day per week that I'm telling myself I'm definitely going to leave the house. I'm definitely going to run errands. It can happen more than one day a week, but there has to be at least one. Absolutely has to be at least one. And I like to do it like midweek. I also like to do it before people get out of work. I don't like to deal with rush hour traffic or anything of that nature. So this will be around midweek, like middle of the day. So that's where I like to plug that in. Also, with that said, I do like to make sure to get out of the house on other occasions. So I like to make sure I do schedule work days outside of the house. So that might mean I might work at the library, I might work at a coffee shop, I might, while working at a coffee shop, meet up with a friend for lunch. That is my ideal week. Doesn't always happen, hardly ever happens, but I like to make it happen more. So that's what I'm going to attempt to also schedule in here. And I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it. Maybe if I make these like specific or certain work blocks a different color, that would help. So this, I would say, is the general layout for what my ideal weekly should look like. I'm going to take a minute, switch up the colors, and kind of play around with where I want things to be. And hopefully, you know, make it make a little bit more sense. And I'll be right back. All right, so there you have it. All of my planned routine refresh. I am very hopeful that this is going to work out, but like I said, maybe it'll work for 2 weeks and then it won't work for the next 2 weeks, and then maybe I'll stumble right back into it, or maybe I won't be able to kind of get in the swing of this for about 2 to 3 weeks until, you know, I start to see how it's going to work and see if it's going to work for me. It's all just up in the air. It's all up in the air, and I'm quite okay with that. But this was just to give you a visual of how I kind of try to plan out my days, especially in a world where I kind of have a bit more autonomy regarding what happens during my days. So it requires a lot of self-discipline. It requires a lot of me setting my own deadlines, and then in the back of my head, if I know that those deadlines aren't necessarily real, like I can push them back or I can move them, that is not very helpful. But this is how I like to instill a bit more self-discipline into my life, but without being a tyrant, like without making it so hard and so difficult on myself. So I thank you for following along with my journey on how I intend to do that. Following along with me as I document putting this plan into place. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see if it works. Maybe I'll check back in with you guys in a couple of months to let you know. We'll see. Who knows what happens? And of course, if you have any questions about what I've shown, any suggestions on better calendar apps that maybe are a bit more user-friendly, or something I'm just missing from using the calendars on the computer or on the laptop, that could be helpful as well. And now I'm thinking about it, I actually wonder if it's easier to use this calendar on an iPad. Like if you use an Apple Pencil to move things around, would that make that easier? I don't know. If you know, let me know down below, because I'm very willing and open to it. So this is something that I use and I reference on occasion. It's not a daily like digital planning type of tool that I use, but it is something that I will check in with regularly. And at times when I have finalized sort of like an ideal structure or ideal daily setup, I will actually put it into my physical planner so that I have it here and I can reference it easily, because I think my brain is just a bit more analog. And instead of me thinking like on a Sunday night where I have to plot out what's going to happen for my week, instead of me opening up my laptop to pull it out and to look at it, it's just a lot easier for me to flip to a page in my planner to just look and see how I already have it set up. So that's what I will probably do once I settle into a routine and settle into something that I know truly works for me. So I do want to say I truly thank you and appreciate you for watching. And if you have any suggestions for other videos I can do along the lines of this productivity search or seeking how to make life better, leave those down below as well. I hope this has helped you in some way, and I'll see you in the next one.